Captain Alex Mercer walked slowly through the bustling streets of Eris Prime, a planet newly contacted by the humans. The city was alive with light, sound, and movement. Towering buildings with shining surfaces reflected the twin suns above, while alien vehicles floated silently in the air. Everywhere, aliens of different shapes and colors moved about, talking in languages Alex could barely understand. Alex had been sent on a diplomatic mission, representing humanity to the Eris Council. His job was to make contact, understand their culture, and if possible, establish a peaceful alliance. But even though he was a trained diplomat and soldier, he could not help noticing the differences here. The streets were clean but crowded, the architecture elegant but strange, and the people cautious yet curious about him. He adjusted his jacket and kept walking. He had a routine to follow and a schedule full of meetings, but something about this city felt fragile. It was a feeling he could not ignore. As he rounded a corner, he saw a sudden movement. A building under construction had started to tremble, metal beams twisting and cracking. Workers screamed and ran, but one figure froze in the middle of the chaos. Lyra, a young scientist, had been examining a strange energy device when the quake hit. She stumbled backward as the building groaned above her. Dust filled the air and sharp pieces of metal began falling around her. Panic set in. She had no way out. Without thinking, Alex ran. Human reflexes were fast, his mind sharp under pressure. He dove under a falling beam, rolled forward, and grabbed Lyra's arm. "This way!" he shouted, pulling her toward a safer spot. The ground shook violently. Metal twisted, a loud crash echoing as part of the building collapsed behind them. Dust and smoke filled the air. Lyra coughed, her eyes wide with fear, but Alex's grip was firm. "I've got you," he said calmly, his voice steady, a strange comfort in the chaos. They reached a small alley where the air was clearer. Lyra looked at him, trembling. Her species did not expect strangers to act so fearlessly. Who are you?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Alex Mercer," he replied with a small smile. "I'm human. You're safe now." Lyra's eyes softened, and she felt an unfamiliar warmth. Humans had a strange way of acting, especially in danger. They seemed fearless but kind, and they did not hesitate to help even when it was dangerous for them. She had heard stories about humans before. They were explorers, warriors, inventors, but she had never seen one in action like this. I didn't think anyone would help me," she whispered. Alex shrugged. "I don't like seeing people in trouble." His eyes scanned the alley, making sure there were no falling pieces or hidden dangers. "Are you okay?" Lyra nodded, still catching her breath. She looked around at the ruined street, the scattered debris, and then back at Alex. Thank you. I really mean it," Alex smiled lightly. "No problem. Happens all the time." She noticed how calm he seemed, how he moved like someone used to danger but not afraid of it. Her curiosity grew. Humans, she realized, were different. They did not just survive, they acted. They could face the unknown with courage and clarity. "Can I ask you something?" Lyra said quietly. "You humans, you seem fearless. How can you be so calm when everything is falling apart?" Alex laughed softly. "We train for it. But also, we care. That makes us act. Fear doesn't stop us. It tells us we need to move faster, think smarter." Lyra considered his words. There was a strange truth in them. Her people often froze in crises, unsure of what to do. Humans seemed to have a different kind of mind, one that combined thought with action. "I've never met a human before," she admitted. "I've read about them, studied them, but seeing one is different." Alex's expression softened. "Different can be good. You learn new things, see new ways." The tremor subsided and the city began to settle. Workers returned cautiously to assess the damage. Alex glanced at his communicator. His schedule would demand him soon, but something about Lyra made him pause. There was intelligence, curiosity, and courage behind her eyes. He saw potential not just for survival, but for change. "Are you hurt?" Alex asked. "Not really," she said, brushing dust from her clothes. "Thanks to you." "You're welcome," he replied. There was a brief silence. In that quiet, a subtle connection formed. Two beings from different worlds, both aware of the fragility of life and the strength of courage. Lyra looked down, hesitant, then back up at him. "Do humans always act like this? Risking themselves for strangers?" Alex thought for a moment. "Not always, but we try. We believe it's worth it. Her heart raced slightly. There was honesty in him, a raw sincerity she did not see often in her world. Most beings spoke in careful tones, hiding fear and emotion. Humans, they seemed different. Real. Alex noticed her glance. You'll be fine. You're smart, careful, and curious. You'll rebuild, figure it out. Humans help, but we don't replace effort. We just guide. Lyra nodded, feeling a strange warmth. I hope I can see humans again. To learn more. To understand, Alex smiled. Maybe you will. Maybe one day our worlds will meet more often. It's better when we share knowledge than fight over it. She watched him for a moment longer. His eyes held a kind of quiet strength, a resolve that inspired her. Lyra realized something. Humans were not only strong, they had a way of changing everything they touched, not by force, but by thought, courage, and heart. Will you stay? She asked softly, almost afraid to hear the answer. Alex shook his head gently. I have to report back. My mission, my duty. But he hesitated, because a small part of him knew this encounter mattered more than any mission. Lyra swallowed hard, sensing something in his hesitation. Then, thank you, truly, I won't forget this. You won't, he said with a small smile. And maybe, this is just the beginning. As Alex turned to leave, Lyra felt a pang in her chest, a mix of admiration, curiosity, and something she could not name. She watched the human disappear into the crowd, his figure tall and determined, moving like someone who belonged to the stars and the unknown. She whispered to herself, almost as a promise. Before you go, I want to learn from you. I want to understand humans. More. Alex paused briefly, feeling the weight of her words even without hearing them. Humans had always been explorers, builders, fighters, and thinkers. But sometimes the greatest power they held was the ability to inspire hope, even on a distant, alien world. And as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the city of Eris Prime, both human and alien stood in quiet reflection. Two worlds, different yet connected by courage, curiosity, and the possibility of friendship. Little did they know, this chance encounter would set in motion events that neither of their worlds could ignore. After the quake, the city of Eris Prime slowly returned to normal. The streets were filled with workers cleaning debris, while repair crews fixed broken buildings and vehicles. But amidst the noise and activity, Lyra could not stop thinking about the human who had saved her, Captain Alex Mercer. His calm in danger, his quick thinking, and the strange warmth in his eyes stayed in her mind like a light she could not ignore. Days passed, and Lyra found herself drawn to her lab more than ever. She had a project in progress, a delicate experiment with energy conversion, but the quake had destroyed much of her equipment. Frustration mixed with determination as she struggled to rebuild her devices. She remembered Alex's words. We help, but we don't replace effort. We just guide. Then came the message. A small encrypted transmission blinked on her terminal. She opened it carefully. Lyra, this is Alex. I noticed your lab was damaged. I can help you rebuild it remotely. Are you interested? Her heart skipped a beat. Humans rarely offered help like this to strangers. She quickly typed back, yes, please, any guidance would help. The next hours and days became a strange rhythm for both of them. Alex sent instructions and designs, simple but efficient, showing ways to use the damaged materials and available resources to reconstruct her lab. He suggested tools she could make herself and clever methods to combine alien tech with human problem-solving. Lyra followed his guidance carefully. At first it felt awkward, learning from someone she had met only once. But soon she noticed the changes. Her lab became more efficient. Machines worked smoother. Her experiments produced results she had never imagined. One evening, while adjusting a new energy converter based on Alex's instructions, she paused and whispered to herself, he doesn't even know. How much this changes things. Meanwhile, Alex monitored her progress from his ship orbiting Eris Prime. He saw how quickly she adapted his suggestions, how her mind worked with curiosity and intelligence. He admired her determination and courage. Humans were strong, but strength was not just about physical power. It was about seeing problems clearly and acting with focus and care. Lyra embodied that kind of promise, and he realized that teaching her was not just helping her. It was forming a connection between two worlds. As the days went by, Their communication became more than just technical advice. They began to exchange ideas about science, culture, and life. Lyra told him about her planet, its people, and the challenges they faced. Alex shared stories about Earth, about human resilience, ingenuity, and determination. He did not boast. He explained in a simple way, showing how humans learned from mistakes and turned problems into opportunities. Lyra was fascinated. Your species, humans, you think differently. You solve problems in... The skies above Eris Prime were calm, painted with the colors of the twin suns. From orbit, Captain Alex Mercer studied the planet's surface through the wide window of his ship. The beauty below hid something darker, something troubling. Reports had reached his crew that a rival faction, known as the Drevians, was moving closer to Eris Prime. The Drevians were not allies, nor were they known for mercy. They believed in conquest and resource control. If they reached the planet, there would be no negotiations, only demands and threats. Alex stood quietly, his jaw firm. He knew the Drevians would not be stopped by words alone. Action would be required. Humanity was new to this region of the galaxy, but humans had a reputation. When danger rose, they did not run. On the surface, Lyra was in her lab when the first alerts sounded. Red lights flashed, and warning messages appeared on public channels. Citizens rushed to shelters, confusion spreading through the city. She felt her chest tighten as she realized what it meant. The Drevians had come. She quickly opened her communicator. "Alex, what is happening?" His voice came calm, steady. "The Drevians are approaching. They want control of your world, but don't panic. We'll protect you." Lyra's hands trembled slightly. "How? They are stronger, aren't they? They have warships. Lyra," Alex interrupted gently. "Listen to me. Strength isn't just about weapons. It's about how you use what you have. Humans don't win by being bigger. We win by thinking smarter. Trust me." Her breathing slowed. His voice carried weight like a shield against fear. She whispered, "I trust you." On the human ship, Alex gathered his small team. They were outnumbered, but retreat was not an option. He pointed at the star maps glowing before them. "The Drevians will expect us to meet them head-on," Alex explained. "But we won't. We'll use the planet's magnetic storms to hide our movements. They'll think we're weaker, but we'll strike when they least expect it." The crew nodded. Humans had always relied on strategy, on making the impossible possible. Hours later, Drevians entered the system. Their ships were large, armored, and aggressive. They broadcast demands to Eris Prime: surrender resources or face destruction. Fear spread through the alien council. Many leaders debated giving in. Lyra sat in the council chamber, her eyes fixed on the screen where the Drevians' fleet appeared. Her people's voices were full of doubt. "We cannot resist," some said. "They are too powerful." Lyra stood up suddenly. "No," she said, surprising even herself. "We cannot give in so easily. Humans are with us. They don't surrender to fear, and neither should we." The room fell silent. She realized all eyes were on her, but she did not waver. Above the planet, the first clash began. Drevians sent smaller attack ships toward the surface. Alex's team intercepted them, using sharp maneuvers through the planet's storms. Human ships were smaller, less armed, but faster. With careful coordination, they lured Drevians into traps, making them crash into magnetic fields or collide with each other. "Target disabled," Alex reported, watching as one enemy craft spun out of control. His crew cheered, but he raised a hand. "Stay focused. This is just the beginning." On the ground, Lyra and other scientists helped direct shield generators around the city. Under Alex's advice, they repurposed energy systems from her lab to power defense fields. The alien engineers were amazed at the speed and creativity of the human methods. Lyra worked tirelessly, sweat running down her forehead, but determination in her eyes. Every step she took reminded her of Alex's words: "Fear doesn't stop us. It tells us to move faster." The Drevians soon realized humans were not the weak newcomers they had expected. Their commanders grew frustrated. "How can such small ships cause so much damage?" one shouted. "They think differently," another muttered bitterly. Alex's ship moved with precision, dodging attacks and striking weak points. He gave orders calmly, his voice steady even in the chaos. His crew trusted him completely. But the Drevians sent reinforcements, larger ships moving toward the planet. The situation grew critical. Lyra saw the incoming ships on her screen and felt fear rise again. She whispered into her communicator, "Alex, they're too many. What if you can't stop them?" There was a pause. Then Alex's voice came back, strong and clear. "Lyra, remember what you told your council. You believe in us. That belief is our strength. Stay strong. We'll handle it." Her heart steadied. She could not let doubt win. The final clash came above the northern hemisphere where the storms were thickest. Alex positioned his ship behind magnetic clouds, hiding until the Drevians passed. Then at the perfect moment, his team unleashed a coordinated strike. Explosions lit the sky as Drevians scrambled. Confusion spread among their ranks. Smaller human ships darted between massive enemy vessels, hitting weak spots with precision. It was not about brute force, it was about strategy, timing, and courage. Lyra watched from the city, her hands pressed together as if in prayer. Every burst of light in the sky made her heart race. She whispered softly, "Be safe, Alex, please." At last the tide turned. The Drevians, humiliated and outmaneuvered, began retreating. Their commanders realized the planet was not worth the cost of continued battle, not with humans involved. One by one, their ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving only silence behind. The skies cleared. The people of Eris Prime cheered, relief flooding the streets. The council praised the humans, though many still looked shocked. They had seen courage and strategy they did not think possible. In her lab, Lyra dropped to a chair, exhausted but smiling. She sent a message to Alex immediately. "You did it. You saved us. Thank you." Moments later, his voice came through. "No, Lyra, we did it. Your shields, your people's strength, our strategy, it all came together. That's how we win, together." Her chest warmed at his words. She knew it was true. Later, when the city held a quiet celebration, Lyra slipped away from the noise. She found herself looking at the stars, knowing Alex was up there. She thought about the way humans fought, not just with weapons, but with courage, cleverness, and trust. When Alex finally came down to the surface, their eyes met in the crowd. Lyra walked toward him, her steps light, her heart racing. For a moment, the noise of the city faded and only his steady gaze remained. "You really came back," she said softly. "Of course," Alex replied. "I told you, we don't leave people behind." She smiled, feeling something stir in her heart, something she had not felt before. In that moment, she understood. Humans were not only strong, they were dependable, even when the odds were impossible. And though the danger had passed, Lyra knew this was only the beginning. Bigger challenges would come. But now she also knew something else. If Alex was with her, she would never face them alone. Captain Elias stood at the command deck, staring at the tactical display. The Vanguard had slipped through 3 enemy patrol lines, each one tighter than the last. Every move they made was watched, every corridor they passed through felt like a trap, waiting to snap shut. Beside him, Rin kept her hands folded tightly, claws tapping nervously against her arm. "They know we're close," she said in a hushed voice. Elias nodded. He could see it too. The way enemy ships seemed to hesitate, drawing nearer but never striking. It wasn't a direct attack. It was pressure, meant to make them slip, to force them into mistakes. But mistakes weren't an option now. Not when Earth's survival hung in the balance. The crew worked silently. They had learned long ago that hesitation could kill them, but now silence itself felt heavy. Every beep of the console, every low hum of the engines seemed magnified. Finally, the comms officer spoke. "Captain, incoming signal. It's..." "Strange," Elias frowned. "Strange how?" "It's not coded like their usual broadcasts. It's repeating a single phrase. Play it." The bridge filled with a harsh, distorted voice. Static warped it, but the words were clear enough. "You cannot win. Turn back. This is your final chance." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Rin stiffened. "That's not their language," she whispered. "That's yours." Elias felt the weight of the words settle in his chest. The enemy was taunting them, using human language. Rin leaned closer. "They're trying to break you. They must know humans don't respond well to threats. They want you to doubt yourself." Elias didn't answer right away. His mind went back to her question before he left the chamber. "Before you go, can I ask you something?" The words had caught him off guard, and even now he hadn't answered her. The thought lingered, slowing his breathing for a moment. Was she asking because she feared he wouldn't return? Or was it something else? He forced himself to refocus. "They think words can stop us. They don't understand what drives us. The vanguard pressed deeper into enemy space. At every step, resistance grew. Automated drones shadowed their path. Carriers moved to block escape routes. And always the strange repeating message echoed across the comms. You cannot win. Finally, the helmsman turned in his chair. Captain, if we keep going forward, there's no way back. We'll be surrounded. Elias looked at the faces around him, tired, tense, but determined. They all knew the risk, and still not one of them faltered. Forward, Elias said firmly. We finish this. Hours later, the vanguard dropped out of faster-than-light near a hidden star system. What they found took everyone's breath away. The star burned dim, almost collapsed. Around it, a ring of massive structures stretched in the dark, a fortress like nothing humanity had ever seen. Ships hung in place like teeth in a jaw, and in the middle, the flash from the beacon's collapse spread across the dark void like a second sun. For a few heartbeats, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. On the vanguard, the crew watched their screens flood with static as enemy signals fractured and then vanished one by one. They're blind, the comms officer whispered. It worked. Cheers threatened to rise, but none came fully. Not while the small craft Elias had piloted remained absent. On the command deck, Rin's claws dug into the railing. Her eyes scanned the sensor feed over and over, searching for even the smallest trace. Find him, she ordered, her voice calm but her chest tight. Scan every sector. The helmsman hesitated. The beacon's explosion disrupted our systems too. It will take time. Then make time, Rin snapped. The crew obeyed, but they all knew the truth. No one had seen Elias's craft escape the light. Minutes dragged into an hour. Around the vanguard, enemy ships wavered in chaos. Without the beacon, their formations broke apart, their maneuvers clumsy and uncoordinated. The humans had dealt a wound no alien commander had ever expected, but victory felt hollow to Rin. She remained at her station, staring into the endless dark. Every few minutes, the same thought returned, his voice before the blast, his silence after, and the unanswered question she had finally asked. Will you come back to me? And he had given her nothing. Suddenly the comms crackled. Vangua. This is, as the bridge fell silent, Rin spun toward the console. Lock onto that signal. The officers worked quickly, stabilizing the feed. The voice sharpened, breaking through the static. This is Elias. Systems failing. I need a vector. Coordinates. Relief swept across the bridge, but Rin didn't let herself smile yet. Transmit guidance. Pull him in. The crew rushed to obey. Outside, a battered shape drifted into view. Elias's craft. Half its hull scorched, thrusters flickering weakly. He had survived the blast, but only just. The recovery bay doors opened, pulling the small craft inside. Rin was already there, waiting. When the hatch hissed open, smoke poured out and Elias stumbled forward, coughing. His uniform was scorched, his face lined with exhaustion, but he was alive. Rin's heart jumped, though her face remained stern. She stepped toward him, steadying his arm. You're late, she said quietly. Elias managed a faint grin. Traffic was terrible. The crew around them laughed lightly, tension breaking at last. But Rin's grip lingered, her claws pressing softly against his arm. For a moment, neither of them let go. The celebration on the ship lasted only a short time. They had struck a decisive blow, but the war was far from over. Enemy reinforcements would come, and soon. Elias stood before the crew later that cycle, his voice steady despite the weariness in his eyes. We've shown them something they didn't expect. We've shown them that humans don't break when threatened. We strike back. And now we have a chance to end this war on our terms. The crew roared in approval. But as the sound faded, Elias's gaze drifted toward Rin. She was watching him, her expression unreadable, though her eyes burned with something unspoken. Later, in the quiet of the strategy chamber, Rin confronted him. You heard me, didn't you? She asked, her voice low. Elias hesitated. He remembered her words as clearly as the explosion itself. Will you come back to me? Yes, he admitted. I heard, and you said nothing. I didn't have time. Her claws clicked against the table. You always have time, Elias. You just choose when to speak and when to stay silent. He looked at her then. Really looked. The alien officer who had fought by his side, who had challenged him, who had risked everything just as he had. For the first time he realized how much of his strength had come from her presence. You want an answer? He said finally. Rin's voice softened. I want to know if I matter beyond this war. The silence stretched long between them. Before Elias could respond, alarms blared across the ship. The tactical officer's voice rang out. Captain! Multiple enemy fleets are converging on our location. They've regrouped! The two of them rushed back to the bridge. The display confirmed it. Dozens of ships closing fast. Their formations sloppy, but their numbers overwhelming. The crew looked to Elias. His earlier speech had lifted them, but now they faced another impossible trial. He stood tall, hiding the heaviness in his chest. Set course for the fallback point. We've made our mark here. It's time to regroup with the rest of the fleet. The Vanguard turned, engines roaring as enemy fire lit up the void behind them. The chase lasted hours. The Vanguard dodged through asteroid fields, skimmed the edges of gravity wells, and bent every ounce of human engineering to stay ahead. Enemy ships fell behind in confusion, but more always followed. On the bridge, exhaustion showed in every crew member's eyes. But they didn't falter. Not when their captain stood steady. Not when Rin's sharp voice cut through fear with precise commands. At last, the stars ahead shifted and a new fleet appeared. Not alien, human. Dozens of warships, bearing the banners of Earth and its colonies, slipped from faster than light, weapons hot and ready. The comms lit up. This is Admiral Karos of the Earth Defense Fleet. Vanguard, fall into formation. We'll cover your retreat. The crew erupted in cheers. For the first time in months, they weren't alone. Safe within the shield of the fleet, Elias finally allowed himself a breath. The war was still raging, but the tide had turned. Humanity had proven they could strike deep into enemy lines and return alive. On the bridge, Rin stood close beside him. She didn't speak, but her presence was enough. As the fleet pushed forward together, Elias knew the question she had asked would return, and when it did, there would be no silence, no delay, because now he understood her words mattered as much as the war itself. The fleet moved like a storm across the stars. Human warships, sleek and scarred, cut through the void beside the battered Vanguard. Their arrival had changed everything. No longer was the small ship alone in enemy territory. Humanity had gathered its strength, and now the galaxy would see what it meant when Earth fought as one. Captain Elias stood on the bridge, shoulders heavy but unyielding. Ahead, enemy fleets regrouped, their numbers vast but their movements uncertain. Without the beacon, their coordination was broken. They still had strength, but they no longer had certainty. Rin stood at his side, watching the tactical display. They know fear now, she said softly. Elias nodded. Then let's remind them why. The first clash came at the edge of the ruined star system. Human and alien ships collided in waves of fire and steel. The void lit up with explosions, the silence of space broken only by the deep rumble that carried through the hull. On the Vanguard, the crew fought with precision. Every command from Elias was clear, every maneuver sharp. The ship moved like it was alive, weaving through enemy lines, striking and vanishing before blows could land. Rin's voice carried above the chaos. Target 3 o'clock, disruptor cannon charging. The blast tore through an enemy cruiser, breaking its hull in two. Cheers erupted, but only briefly. The battle was far from over. Hours passed, and still the fleets clashed. Human ships held their ground, their formation tight, their resolve unshaken. The enemy pressed harder, throwing wave after wave, but for every ship they destroyed, 3 more fell in return. And slowly, the balance shifted. Admiral Karos's voice came through the comms. They're faltering. This is the moment. All ships, advance! The human fleet surged forward like a rising tide. The enemy line cracked, then broke. For the first time in the war, retreat signals lit across their formations. They're running, the helmsman whispered in awe. Elias exhaled. Humanity had stood at the edge of extinction, and now, for the first time, it was the enemy who fled. But victory did not come without cost. The Vanguard shook violently as a final enemy barrage struck its hull. Alarms blared and sparks rained across the bridge. Shields down, shouted the engineer. We can't take another direct hit. Elias steadied himself against the railing. His eyes scanned the display. The enemy flagship still remained, massive and looming, holding its ground even as the rest fled. Its weapons glowed, ready for one last devastating strike. This isn't over, Elias said. They want to take us with them. Rin turned to him. Her gaze was steady, unflinching. Then we stop them, together. The plan was simple but deadly. The vanguard would spear straight at the enemy flagship, drawing its fire, while the rest of the human fleet closed in from all sides. It was a gamble, but if it worked, the enemy would lose its last command ship. Elias gave the order. Engines roared, and the vanguard hurled itself into the storm. Enemy cannons lit the void, fire streaking past, but the ship danced between beams, every move pushed to its limit. On the bridge, sweat lined the crew's faces, but no one faltered. They trusted Elias, they trusted Rin, they trusted each other. Closer, closer. The enemy flagship loomed larger, its weapons blinding in their fury. Now, Elias commanded. The fleet struck as one. Missiles, cannons, and beams converged, hammering the flagship from every angle. Its shields flared, cracked, and then shattered. The final blast from the vanguard drove into its heart. The alien flagship erupted in a silent explosion, light consuming it. And with it, the last resistance broke. The void fell quiet. Human ships drifted in formation, battered but unbroken. The enemy was gone. Not destroyed completely, but shattered, their power broken, their unity lost. Humanity had done the impossible. On the bridge of the vanguard, silence reigned. The crew looked to their captain.